Go. All right, we're live. We're live. How exciting. Monica, how are you?
I'm very good. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. So, for the folks that are watching, welcome back. This will probably be the last one we do monthly because we're going to start doing some things weekly. But I am so excited to have just an amazing clinician and a good friend too.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you were able to join us. So let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Monica Vermani, who is just she's one of the most special people we've met. And when I say we, I mean me and my wife. We had a chance to spend a little bit of time with Monica when she was here in South Florida, and we just think she's the cat's meow, as we say in England. So let me tell you a little bit about Monica before I get into the sum and substance of why I'm going to take an hour of our time today and share it with the rest of the people that are watching this. So Dr. Monica Vermani is one of Canada's highest rated clinical psychologists. She's also an author, podcaster, and mental health advocate. She believes that good mental health doesn't just happen and that it deserves the same time, attention, understanding, and effort as our physical well being. I don't think truer words were ever spoken. She's also the founder of Start Living Corporate Wellness, which offers game changing corporate wellness initiatives that address the underlying mental health issues that impact individuals and groups with a dynamic suite of customizable training and support to help keep employees engaged, productive, happy, and whole. She's a regular contributor to Psychology Today and has shared her expertise in a wide variety of media outlets, including Forbes, Business Insider, Oprah Daily, Cosmopolitan Magazine, Martha Stewart, Men's Health, The List, Yahoo, Life, Daily, is it Daily OM or OM?
Mhm.
Paradise Magazine, Parade Magazine, Pop Sugar, Parade, Vitamin Shop, CNN, NBC, CTV, City TV, yada, yada, yada. Wow. Holy smokes. That's some resume.
Uh,
So I'm very excited to be here with you. And there's really two things I want to talk to you about. And I'll do it in this order unless you tell me otherwise. The first is your TED Talk. I listened to the TED Talk. And if you haven't seen Monica's TED Talk, you absolutely should. It's just gold. It's 20 minutes of gold. And I'm starting with the TED Talk because a lot of it really resonated with me.
mhm.
And I don't know how much, I know we talk, but this is, so we're actually next month. Here's the irony of today. Do you know what today is? There's two things that are important about today. Number one, today is the ninth anniversary of the day I lost my father. So it's been 9 years today that I lost my dad.
Mhm.
But the beautiful thing about today is it's also my stepdaughter's 29th birthday.
Oh,
And
I
she
love
and she's precious to me. I mean, she's like my own. So um, so I think my father would say today is a day to celebrate, not to mourn. But it's always a touchy day for me. So I'm glad, ironically, that I can share it with you
it.
because it's been a long journey for me, not just really to recover from losing my dad, but in building this business. Because when I started in February of 16 out of the local library, I was broke and I had nothing going on either personally or professionally. And one of the things that you talked about in your TED talk was the idea of manifestation. And I just saw that and I say, "Oh, I'm going to talk about that." So maybe we could talk about that and then we'll talk about your book and some of the people that you help. But I want to talk about that because I think that's powerful stuff. And ironically, I've just been listening to Think and Grow Rich for lawyers. So one of my mentors, R. John Robbins, took Think and Grow Rich, which is, I don't know, is it the preeminent personal growth book, and said, I'm gonna sort of narrate this thing and apply it to lawyers because lawyers are, well, for the most part, they're pretty messed up. We're a pretty messed up group. So I want to talk about that. Let's talk about manifestation and how do we get rid of the blind spots? How do we go? What separates somebody who just can't seem to get out of their own way versus somebody like an Elon Musk or a Bill Gates? I mean, how does that happen? Talk us through that.
Let's go back to my TED Talk. It was called Think About It. Thoughts are powerful things. Everything ever created started with a thought. And so, good or bad thoughts shape your life. That's the key. And when you listen to the TED Talk, it reinforces some success stories of how people that I have been so fortunate. I've done over 30 years of work with extreme populations, people in prisons with mental health issues that are extremes, with OCD, anxiety disorders, depression, with brain and spinal cord injury, people who are paralyzed. When you work with these extreme populations, there's a lot of despair, grief, sadness. You're grieving the loss of who you were, who you thought you were, the functioning, your pain, your lifestyle, maybe even people in your life. And it is about reconceptualizing and challenging thoughts and narratives that we live by. Life is really just a series of experiences. We as human beings judge our experiences as positive or negative. When you were speaking about grief, I just crossed Christmas, and Christmas is a time a lot of people have grief. Spiritually, any holy spiritual time out there, and Christmas is one of those spiritual times. Hanukkah's there's all these spiritual things around Christmas. There's a lot of loss. There's a lot of souls that leave the body around spiritual times. Easter, if you look at spiritual times in the year, a lot of people experience death and grieving. And so it's a time that is auspicious in some ways, and some cultures see it, for the soul to leave the body and go into the soul world. I see it, this is our body world, and that is our soul world. And we grieve the loss of what somebody physically will do. But love, if I tell you to imagine your father, and I tell you to imagine his hug, and my father is in the soul world too, and if I imagine him holding my hand, which he always loved my energy, there's a part of me that just can feel his hand right there, can feel the emotions that come up when I used to hold his hand, or see his face light up when I walked in the room because I made him sparkle. You can still feel that. It's like love is a long distance relationship. Just because you don't see someone all the time physically doesn't mean the love is not there. And so, it's about thoughts. In one moment, you talked about grieving and loss of somebody physically in your world, but you also spoke about your stepdaughter who's here physically showing you love in presence, and that you can physically hug and touch and enjoy time with. And so grieving is an interesting time. It's about us celebrating the time we've had with somebody, and also a reminder to live each day as if it's your last. Whenever someone passes away, and I'm a minister as well, when I do sometimes births and funerals, funerals I love because it's about everybody in the audience reminding you of the different roles that person who passed away, played. To somebody you might have been a lover, to somebody you might be a parent, to somebody you might be a colleague, a friend, a mentor, a sports colleague. There's roles of those people, and those roles come from our interaction in our world. You literally are born alone, you take your first breath in alone, and you take your last breath out alone. It is an individual journey amongst this collective, and that individual journey is about your thoughts. Thoughts are things, what you focus on expands. You can focus on the loss, or you can focus on how long you were blessed with that person. You can focus on the people that are still around, that are giving you physical comfort, and learn to also realize that the imprint of the person who's gone carries on in your behaviors, carries on in your mannerisms, carries on in the morals and values you live your life with. When I look at my TED Talk, it was a hard thing to do because I never thought I'd be on a platform like that. But secondly, I was blessed to be able to share 3 patient stories and one of my own at the end of that TED Talk. And when I share those patient stories, they're remarkable ones. A quadriplegic reinventing his life, who can't move his hands. And then I look at my other patient who's a mute comedian right now, rocking the world on tour, and has hit it, really big out there. And at that time when I did my TED Talk, he hit 100,000 followers on TikTok, and now he's out there touring the world as a comedian that's mute. And then a cop who became a GP. A GP who became a cop. And
I thought that was fascinating, about a guy who went to medical school because his parents, said,
yeah,
a doctor, and he really wanted to just be a cop, which I found amazing.
And you know what? The key thing about thoughts is we all have a battlefield within us. And that battlefield is between our true self, who we authentically really want to be, and what is expected of us. The expectations from roles, from people, from society, from the workplace, from financial difficulties. We are always battled with this battlefield of your true self and what is expected of you. And many of our thoughts are sometimes sacrificial, where we're sacrificing what we really want to do to make other people happy. And I feel that anxiety and depression, and specializing in that population, your anxiety and depression are signals that you are disconnecting from your authentic truth. You're disconnecting from the truth of who you are, how you should be seeing yourself, that will lift you to be a higher, better version of you. Negative thoughts deplete you, make you anxious, fuel self-doubt, fuel the ego that needs to be right than happy. And many times we got to look at the thinking patterns that keep us stuck in anxious loops, those what if, fears, anxiety, catastrophizing, doom and gloom, worst case scenarios. Because if you think about our future is imagination. It hasn't happened yet. And you can imagine it to be best case scenario, or you can imagine it to be worst case scenario. But when you have mental health issues, anxiety, depression, you have poor coping skills of alcohol, drug use, or you don't take charge of the energy in your space. Many times misery likes miserable company. If you're in the presence of people who are stuck, you will find you'll still feel stuck in those anxious loops. Sometimes we have to take charge of the energy in our space, bring in new resources, bring in new thinking patterns, bring in new friends, bring in new help, bring in a new perspective that helps us move forward to be our better version of ourselves, whether it's dealing with grief and grief of yourself. Many of us grieving, losses of relationships, losses of children, losses of functioning, loss of bodily changes that come with age. We're constantly grieving parts of ourselves. And then when we grieve a person, it's sometimes looking back to have that loss of where I didn't spend time, where I didn't spend enough time. I always tell people at your grave, you're never going to be complaining you didn't spend more hours at work. You're going to be reflecting on all the other places you sacrificed. And the key is, can I wake up in the morning and always remember, I got to live each day as if it's my last. Each and every one of us are born with the uncertainty of not knowing when and how we're going to die. So
Okay.
we're meant to do that so that you can live each day as if it's your last. But there's got to be this level of, am I living in my highest and best, that I look in the mirror and I'm proud of who I am, proud of my impact on others.
Right. And I've heard that before, where I've seen sort of articles where they talk about, maybe somebody went out there and interviewed, 100 people that were on their deathbed, and they asked them, do you have any regrets? And they all said, well, I wish I'd have spent more time working. And I think for me, one of the things I realized after my dad was gone was how quickly the time was going, and I still felt like I had a lot of things to accomplish.
Yeah.
And my wife tells me, I'm not a particularly patient person. I've never been particularly patient, but I think as I just turned 59 the other day, and so I feel like, okay, I'm running out of time here to get my goals accomplished. And one of the things I also came to realize again after listening to the Think and Grow Rich book is, you have to, if you have goals, you have to take massive action to get there. Right. I know, we really grounded out for many years, my wife and I, to get the business where it is. And we had our best year ever, helped more people than ever. And I'm like, okay, but we have very high goals for this year, 2026. Yeah. Time to step up the game and take more massive action. And so.
Well, think about goals. Goals are also thoughts, right? Like, plain and simple, life is just a series of experiences. And it's up to you to choose your own adventure. When you say your age bracket, the first half of life is time to live. And there's lots of things that we haven't done. So we're constantly doing new things. The second half of life, which you're in, is time left to live. And that's where we sometimes feel this need and urgency to do all the things that maybe we didn't get to do in the first half of life. But it's important for us to realize, again, this time left to live brings in this, how do I want to leave? What impact do I want to leave? When you say goals, the goal for some people is just to wake up and have a good day. To somebody, it's to wake up and not have chronic pain. To somebody, it's wake up and not drink or use alcohol and drugs. To somebody, it's wake up and, make the world a better place, or to, leave behind a legacy. That's choose your own adventure. You are literally here choosing what experiences that make you happy, that make you feel joyful. Sometimes, I work a lot, and I have sometimes people who are friends and colleagues say, Monica, you work a lot. And I said, did I say that? And they look at me and they're like, what do you mean? I said, I'm not complaining about my work schedule. It's the person who can't get a dinner date or can't make time, with me, or has to wait a month for, time to have lunch, that is like complaining about me working a lot. I'm not complaining because I'm choosing it every day. It brings me joy. I play and make money. I am a part of people's journeys. And there's a fulfillment in seeing how remarkable we are, that we can take situations that are so painful and learn to see how resilient we become from that pain.
Yeah, there was something else that I got from the TED Talk, and I wrote this down.
Huh?
Um, I wrote down thoughts become things, and I also wrote down the word core beliefs.
Yes.
Talk about that, because I mean, to a certain extent, we become programmed at an early age.
Yeah. So 0 to 10, you're not born in that world out there. You're born in a household. The way mom and dad love each other is love. The way mom and dad fight is conflict resolution. We are forming a blueprint of the world, men, women, relationships, marriage, love, conflict resolution. We're developing a blueprint from 0 to 10. And so many of us repeat cycles or turn into our family members because of those blueprints. Our blueprints sometimes are also necessary to cope and survive. Many of us parents, like my parents, were immigrants. And so if you're second generation, your parents were immigrants, you might have a survival mechanism of like, go, 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 work hard. You need to save money. You need to worry about tomorrow. You need to find your place in the world because maybe they came in and they struggled with that. We sometimes take on ancestral traumas. We take on scarcity models of money. We take on fears, anxieties, self-doubt, not feeling good enough, constantly needing to be perfect or look well or be a moral person. We take on a lot from our family unit. And sometimes it works in your favor. And other times, if you're holding on to those core beliefs from your childhood that worked for you in your childhood, maybe they don't work for you as an adult. So if you're not reconceptualizing, re-challenging, reframing things, I find people get stuck in loops, and those loops get us stuck in a place that can bring us to our demise. So for example, my mom used to say, hard work doesn't kill you. Well, that came from a mother who was motivating her daughter to work hard because she was an immigrant and she wanted her daughter to do better. She wanted her daughter to accomplish. That worked for me as a kid. I went through school, I worked 2, 3 jobs, I've always done things. However, as an adult, if I didn't reconceptualize that concept of I have to work hard, I could get sick, I could deplete myself, I could sacrifice, I could ruin relationships. So at some point, we have to sometimes look at core beliefs that come from mommy and daddy, come from society, come from traumas in the family, poverty, gambling, abuse, addictions at home, anger, things like this. We have to challenge where we're coming from to look at who are we becoming, and do my thought patterns align with who I feel worthy and deserving to be. Many times our parents don't always feel worthy and deserving. And if we take on that, we're constantly staying at the same level that they stayed at. Might be a lower vibration than who you can be. Being your highest and best or better is you believing in better for yourself. Many of us struggle with feeling good enough for more.
Okay, so how do we reprogram those core beliefs, right? Because
Yeah.
you're right. I mean, so I mean, I grew up in the United Kingdom, and I always sort of joke. My parents, they met on a blind date, and they both thought that the other was coming from a wealthy family, and it turned out they didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. My grandfather on my father's side was a tailor, and my grandfather on my mother's side was a barber. Right? They didn't make it. They probably just got by. My father was really the first person in the family to make any kind of money, and he, along with my mom, they built businesses together. Some worked, some didn't. Some made money, some my father, paid a heavy price for. And I always, I tell my wife, I think my father made mistakes, not so he could learn from them, but so I could learn from them. Because I watched my father have successes and failures, and but my father had left school at 14 and my mother 16, so he learned his, the way of doing things just by trial and error. I mean, he had nobody to mentor him.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, the idea that I would build a business, I think the one thing that's sort of sad for me is he didn't get to see what we built and what we're actually building here, because I think this would have, I think the firm has far exceeded anything I had ever expected. I'd never built a business before we had the law firm, and I couldn't have done it without my wife, who you know well. So how do you, for me, after I got divorced, and I got divorced. This is my second marriage.
Yeah.
I got married when I was 34. That's 25 years ago, and I was divorced a year later. And I spent probably close to 10 years trying to figure out get my act together. And
Mm.
I was blessed to have met somebody that basically changed the direction of my life and helped me to sort of reprogram my thoughts. But for some people who don't come from affluent families, who maybe not come from an entrepreneurial background, and they have all these goals and desires, but somehow just can't seem to get things going, can't seem to get out of their own way. How do they reprogram their thoughts so that they can
Yeah.
really establish their goals?
So you just said the key. They don't get out of their own way. We don't realize the emotional impacts that emotional traumas and circumstances and events have on us. And I call that emotional debris. If you haven't processed and worked through the emotional debris, you will never feel worthy and deserving to be better than that. And so at some point, you said, I was blessed. Yes, we can call that a blessing, but we can also look inwards and be like, there was some part of you on a vibrational front, on a core belief front, that felt worthy and deserving of better. And you brought that into your life.
Well, I think after I got divorced at 35, the one question I really asked myself was I happy, both personally and professionally? And the conclusion I came to pretty quickly was I was miserable on both fronts. Um, and it took the because this so Audrey and I had our second wedding anniversary on the 6th of January, and with my birthday on the 7th. It took me considerably longer to sort of get that bit together. And I always sort of joke that my wife married me despite my faults, not necessarily because of them.
Mhm.
It took me a long time to get that part of my life together. Because when I first met her 12 years ago, I told her, if you're looking to get married, I will settle down. I said, you got the wrong guy. That's never going to happen, ever. And here I am. I got married. It turned out to be the best decision I've ever made. This is easily the most happy I've been. I have my moments. Um, but it took me a long time to get that together. And I worked on myself, though. I really did.
More than just the work. You said the key. You took a moment to pause and reflect and ask yourself,
It took a lot of moments.
what's going to bring me happiness? What? And you said it yourself. I realized I was not happy. And many of us are so busy on that hamster on the wheel, go, 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 and constantly doing. We're not being. Until you're not being, you don't know what you have to clear up. You don't know what you have to work through. You don't know what you have to forgive. Many of us carry shame, blame, and guilt. We need to clear. We need to forgive ourselves for things that maybe we haven't made time for. We didn't pause for it. And when you said that pause, I was at a retreat where I was facilitating, but there were a group of us facilitators. And so, one of the girls is like, you haven't had a break. Why don't you meditate for the next cycle? And I'll run this and watch everybody. And you just meditate and be a part of the audience. So I sit down amongst all these other people who are meditating, and I close my eyes and then just go into my silence. I'm looking for this treat. And the guy next to me falls asleep and is making these horrific noises in his sleep. And the girl next to me is an older woman who starts coughing uncontrollably. And I can't focus enough to go in. And I'm kind of shifting and I'm fidgeting and I want to help him because he looks like the poltergeist just entered him. And she's coughing so much, I want to just give her a glass of water. And my colleague walks up to me and comes in front of me. She goes, Monica, is everything okay? I'm like, look at this. I go, should I help you? And she goes, no, this is your time off. You go in there and find your peace. You go in there and find your joy, and you go in there and block this out. This is your time to rest. And when she said that, I closed my eyes and I did that. I went in and I realized in that moment, I bring my peace, not the environment around me, not the circumstances. I have to go in and find it. The moment I said, I'm going to bring my peace, he was gone and I stopped hearing him. She was gone and I stopped hearing her. And I went in and there was a silence and then I was gone myself. Moral of the story, you bring your own peace. You bring your own forgiveness. You bring your own healing, but we have to pause and reflect to do so. When you said, I've done a lot of work, you took the time. We are our own VIPs. We're our own very important people. You were born alone, you die alone. You have to add yourself into the equation of your life. That first half of lifetime to live, We make it all about everybody else, people pleasing, parent pleasing, seeking approval by others, trying to fit into society, trying to make more friends, trying to make money, try to be smart, try to be dressed well, try to feel attractive. We're doing so much. We forget being. What's really going to bring me joy? What's really going to bring me peace? What's really going to bring me, stability, balance, happiness, and changing core beliefs of sacrifice. When you're in pain, you spill over onto others with symptoms, traumas, with just repeating cycles. And when you're in a place of health, where you've paused and reflect and taken that moment, there's a ripple effect of health. You want to be better for your world and all those people that you interact with. It starts with you. You did the work. You're a better husband today. You're a better friend today. You're a better professional today. But you took the work inwards. It's not about somebody giving you that recipe. You had to go in, face your demons, realize you were unhappy, and face it. Drugs, alcohol, numb it. Porn addictions, technology addictions. Today, we are finding so many reasons to be distracted from ourselves that we don't go inwards to do the healing work. Then we wonder why our life is not changing. I have to be in a place of responding versus reacting. And that comes from you doing the work. The work is actually fun when you like yourself. The work is hard when you don't like yourself. Meaning if you're reinforcing fears, anxiety, self-doubt, you won't go inwards. You won't want to talk to a therapist. You won't want to stop doing drugs and alcohol so you feel the pain. Sometimes we have to walk through a desert or go through that turmoil and come out on the other end in order to have a new start. We numb, suppress, push things down. And that's a part of the problem. One reason why people don't get healthier relationships, you don't feel worthy and deserving of more. At some point, you felt worthy and deserving, and she walked in. You felt worthy and deserving of taking a risk. When I did my TED Talk, I was so stressed out. I was talking to my accountant who told me he climbed a mountain. I'm like, how is this relevant? He goes, Monica, everybody asked me after, why did you do that mountain climb? And I said, because I can. And he goes, when I look at you, why did you do the TED Talk? Because you can. Why did you build a business? Because you felt you can.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of my mentors, he talks about the different levels of a business in terms of the income and stuff like that, and he says, when the business gets to a certain level, right, you won't be the same person you were when you were down here. And I didn't realize that was true until I got there, right? I mean, we for the first 7 years, it was just me and Audra, my wife. And it's only within the last 3 years that we have staff. I mean, I think we're at least at I think there's 15 people in the firm now. I think it'll be, I wouldn't be shocked if it was closer to 20 by the end of the year. And I've had to learn a different skill set, but also a different mindset. One of which is, well, there's a couple things I had to learn, and it took my wife from firing me from certain aspects of the business, which is that, we have associates who are as good, if not better lawyers than me, and it's okay to let them do their thing, right? So I do, and I have discovered that I actually enjoy being an entrepreneur far more than I do practicing law. I mean, I like to think I'm a decent lawyer. I've got 32 years in, and I've tried hundreds of jury trials, so I'm reasonably good in the courtroom. But I love going out there and doing things like this, where I get to talk to people like you and share our passion and our mission. I find that actually much more, that drives me a whole lot more than running into the courtroom and showing everybody how good I am in the courtroom. Because in my mind, if I build the business, I get to help more people. Mm-hmm. And that's the bit that was missing for me professionally.
Yeah. That's your phase now in this time left to live. It's about legacy. It's about paying it forward. It's about taking students on. And it's about knowing it doesn't have to be perfect. It can be good enough. The one thing I've learned with age and wisdom in the academic world is when I was younger, it had to be perfect because I was trying to build a reputation. And then at some point it flipped the page to, it just has to be good enough. My thesis advisor actually gave me that. He had said, Monica, when you write this thesis, do 50% of the work you usually do. I'm like, what? And he's like, I know you push yourself hard. Your 50% is better than what you think. Learn to be good enough to get it out, because 30 seconds later, somebody's publishing a new paper It doesn't have to be perfect, but learn also to see people in the capacity that they are in. I remember once being hard on one of my staff, and I was all frustrated. And at that time, I had a partner in the practice, and I was venting to him, and he said to me, Monica, if she was your skill set, she would be a doctor, not an office admin. And when he said that, it humbled me to realize, oh my gosh, I am comparing her to my skill set. People don't have to be me to be a part of the team and be successful in it. And sometimes we judge people's capabilities, we judge their intentions, we get irritated when they're not doing things at your standard. I think a part of our humbling journey is to see beauty in each person and how they contribute. And when they feel seen, heard, valued, and loved, they aspire to be a part of a team that helps you grow. The energy of having staff comes from you being in a place of health so that you see good in them. When you, as a partner or as a professional, are seeing, hearing, valuing, and loving people around you, there is something beautiful about that energy where people just want to be a part of the journey to support your bigger vision. You want to help more people. But for you to really help more people, you have to see, hear, value, and love the people you work with, the people you support, and yourself. Because if you're not in a place of health, you can't ripple effect healthy employees, healthy, clients, healthy anything in the world. We want a better world. It starts with you.
Oh,
Hi.
I think we're back. Suddenly we lost everything. I think we're live still. Okay, good. All right. I saw us flip spots on the screen. It's funny you should say this because I had somebody another lawyer that I was connected to for a brief period of time, and he had grown a very successful family law firm, and we were at the stage where we didn't have anybody doing the intake, the sales process.
Mm-hmm.
And now I think we have 4 people now and doing, taking calls because we get calls from all over the country. And it used to be me doing it. And he said, well, you can't possibly grow your business, right? If you're taking the calls, who's doing the marketing? And, and I said to him, I don't think anybody can do it as well as me. And he said, listen, you don't need an A B+ gets the job done. And he wasn't just talking about the sales. He was talking about like even just, drafting the pleadings. And I was a bit like you, right? It had to be absolutely perfect. I mean, it's not like I was submitting a pleading to the Supreme Court. I don't even know if the judge read it.
No.
Right. I mean, I'm not in front of, the Supreme Court of the United States. Right. And so you're right. A B+ gets the job done because there's always another client that needs help and another client. Yeah. So I've had to
own life. You're cooking, you're cleaning. A kept home is an unlived life. Sometimes we got to even lower the standards on all the things that we overextend ourselves to that exhaust us. Stress is when your activity level surpasses your energy level. Activity is mental and physical. So stress is when your activity level surpasses your energy level. This is stress. You have 2 options: bring down activity. And some of us who are doing a lot of wonderful helping can't bring down more activity. So what's the next option? Bring up energy levels. 4 sources of energy, the basics: the food we eat. Are we eating to sustain energy throughout the day? The sleep we have. Am I waking up renewed and refreshed in the morning or exhausted because I keep sacrificing sleep? Exercise and breathing. Can I breathe? Many of us are breathing short and shallow because we're so busy. Breathing from your belly, bringing that groundingness so that you can respond versus react. And the 4th one is a calm state of mind, dealing with things versus pushing them aside, avoiding it, denying it, projecting it on others, blame, shame, guilt, all the things we do that make our problems bigger, not less. I always see all human suffering as a catalyst for change. Whenever people come here, they come usually in dire need in the beginning. And then, they keep me for maintenance because I having therapy is that process of you just having an hour to just reflect on yourself and reinforce going inwards. But usually what gets you here is your symptoms getting louder and louder until you can't handle it, and then you go for help. And so to me, all human suffering is a catalyst for change. All human symptoms is a catalyst for change. It doesn't matter who you are. Problems will manifest in physical symptoms, negative thoughts, and negative behaviors. When you start working through things, it feels good to take charge and bring your own joy, bring your own health, bring your own balance. And you'll find stress, even if you're doing a lot, if you bring up your resources, you are more productive, you're more efficient, the right teammates come. If you start believing in yourself, things just get healthier around you. Health perpetuates more health. Negativity leads to more negativity. And many of us don't realize that cycle is what we need to break. The work you're doing is remarkable. You're breaking cycles. And what you just said is you want to help more people. When the intention's good, you're also mentally and physically supported for it too. The intention is about living your highest and best or better for our clients. They get better. And when the intention is, I don't care, I can't do it, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not capable, what's the point? Let me prove everybody right and stay stuck. Your symptoms get louder. At some point, your symptoms break you.
Okay, I'm with you on that. But I have noticed that staying, I don't know, motivated, disciplined, moving your life forward. For me, I think one of the things I've had to do is it's something I have to work on. It's a bit like going to the gym, right? If I don't continually exercise, I'll just, at 59, I just turn into a blob. So, especially the way I eat. Well, it's my wife's great cooking. What can I tell you? It's another reason to marry her, other than many other wonderful qualities. She's a fabulous cook. So, I mean, even in the gym, right? I'll try to listen to something that motivates me to come, to go to work and do a better job. And I've noticed that you just can't say, well, I'm fine now, I'm okay. It's almost like recovery, right? And I tell this to families, when your loved one experiences that miracle of recovery, it's not like one and done. Oh, they're fine now. No, they have to continue to work on this. I mean, I've got friends who have been in recovery 15, 20 years. Without exception, they go to a meeting once a week.
Yeah.
So I think otherwise we slip back into our old patterns.
Health is a full-time job, period. Like, everything in life is replacing one thought with the other, replacing the negative with the positives. Being healthy is reinforcing that muscle of healthy habits, healthy disciplines, healthy practices, healthy people around you, so that they motivate you as a buddy system to keep you healthy in that cycle of maintaining your gains. Many of us can get to that place, and then our problem is maintenance. But maintenance comes from discipline and structure. And so, it's about falling in love with being healthy. It's about falling in love with yourself, being a better version of you. It's about loving yourself. When you're in a good state of mind and health, you try to feel good by doing good for yourself, eating well, exercising, sleeping enough, taking care of your loved ones, slowing down, not racing, but actionably taking steps towards balance, towards breaks, towards things that actually give you more efficiency. I find the more I take my breaks and rest, the more efficient I am in building the business, the more efficient I am in doing new projects. Sometimes I look at all I'm doing and I'm like, how do you do it? Because I do play, I do have fun, I do go on vacations. And what I find is I'm more efficient because I take care of myself. And then that also motivates my staff to want to take care of me too. Many of us sometimes just get stuck and hamster on the wheel, those patterns, and those are the ones we want to break. Healthy patterns is a choice. Gratitude and joy is a choice. Every day I do a log before bed where I write down things that brought me joy today. And it started as a memory exercise because I was like, I don't remember anything. I forgot what I ate for breakfast. So I used to do this journal at the end of the day of reflecting from morning to night what brought me joy today. And it could be as simple as me walking out of the building and the security guard paying a compliment and me just feeling, honored that somebody noticed me, or, a patient baking me a good dessert and treating me in her session with it, or, me having a good moment of productivity. I reflect from morning to night little things that brought me joy. It could be my nail color that just, spruces up my day for me. Sometimes we have to pause and stop being so exhausted by doing to just smell the roses and have that conversation and listen to one another, be seen, heard, valued, and loved by ourselves and then others. But it is a discipline. And I would say healthy habits, people who are healthy have really good disciplines. They look better because I do believe your inner world creates your outer world. Many times we are manifesting health on the outside, even when we're healthier on the inside. So learning to love yourself, I don't think we're taught that in school. We're not taught that by our parents. That many times they did the best they could with what they had, and they didn't know how to love themselves. Learning to love yourself is learning to get back to the basics. How do I simplify life? I have a patient right now in France, and he said, "Oh my God, I'm living here with my son, and I just want to empty everything out of my house when I come back to Toronto." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "In Europe, the homes are so empty and basic, like they don't have extra clutter. I just want to go home and empty things. I feel like simplicity brings peace, harmony, ease to clean." And that is the key about life. Can you bring in simple routines for cooking, simple routines for friendships, simple routines for your self-care? You know, there was a fad a few years ago of like people um, having their outfits very, organized and planned out, so that way it wasn't a lot of thinking. Or your meal prep days, your meals are done for the week. You don't have to think about it. Simplifying life, bringing in routines comes with structure, but that structure also brings you time to rest, to play, to engage with your loved ones, your pets, smell the roses, play in the rain or the snow right now. And it's about you learning to play more. I think we lose playfulness as we age. Even if you can make work play, you'll find it doesn't
That
feel like a responsibility anymore.
that is true. I think as we get older, you know, we lose the ability to get lost in our own imagination.
Hmm.
And I think for me, I think one of the things that what makes my marriage work is that my wife and I share the same goals. Right?
Yes.
We look at the future, 2 years, 5 years, and we see the same vision. And I think that's important in having a partner. I think when I was 34, um, I was more led by I was much more led by the things that the what's the word I'm looking for here in a to be polite. Men are visual creatures. How's that? And I was much more impressed by the visual aspect of a partner than I
Mhm.
was by the other things that ultimately lead to a successful long-term relationship. When you get in later on in life, there are other things that are equally, if not more important than the visual things that the superficial man would appreciate. How's that?
Yeah. It's even more like when you say partner, I'm going to say goes beyond that. Maya Angelou says, take charge of the energy in your space. And what that means is, again, you want to keep close people that share the values of who you are. Comparison is out there. We do it on social media, we do it with one another. We're looking at everybody. When I see somebody that I judge as less than, I'm like, I grew from there. When I see somebody I judge as better than, I can acquire the skill and become it. So, what you want to do is take charge of the energy in your space and have partners, friends, colleagues, or even just mentors and networking of people that you want to be like, whether it's on a healthy front, on a work front. We want to take charge of the energy in your space. Are you keeping people in alignment to healthy habits if you want to be healthier, to morals and values that you uphold, to feel safe in a relationship, to feel that they're going to be honest and not lie to you? Your wife's beautiful inside and out. She's a remarkable person, and you know she came with that package because I can also say she's done her work to look at how do I take charge of the energy in my space. I know with her having children and stuff, you have limited time, but I'm sure the people that she surrounds herself with are people that are quality for her to maintain her dignity in character, in responsibilities, in the way she shows up in the world. We all have a choice, and looking at who we surround ourselves with is a good way of feeling motivated, feeling driven. I was on vacation with a friend, and we were giggling and laughing. And, I had a moment of thank you, thank you, thank you, gratitude, because you have to choose gratitude and joy every day. And so I had a moment of choosing gratitude for the food I was eating, for the stars in the sky that I could see, for the weather, for this friend that I was laughing that we almost peed our pants running down the hall. But it was one of those funny things of I have chosen to take charge of the people in my space, that they lift me, they support me, they bring similar values that reinforce the need for me to hold on to those values. And so, misery likes miserable company. And sometimes if we feel broken, we feel not in alignment to be with people that are better. And so again, I always think it's about a self-esteem thought of I matter and I'm worthy and deserving of more. If you have that inside you, you will have more. And sometimes I've learned to just even put out there every day after my meditation, please bring me what's in my highest and best or better. Because I might think my highest and best is this, and better might take me right here. So I've even gone beyond that. I'm like, show me how good it can get, universe. Bring me whatever's in my highest and best or better. And it usually shows up. I will say, I always believe I get a parking spot, and whenever I'm driving around, the parking spot's right there where I need it to be. And I do believe we have this magic within us that when you don't sweat the small stuff, when you do the work on your anxiety, your depression, your self-doubt, when you stop numbing things and just face it all, you will process it and move to a better place. And you'll have the support of friends, colleagues, or partners that will also bring you that joy and alignment to help you now to go to the next level. Your business is growing because you brought on the right intention, and that intention also came with disciplines and routines and resources. You haven't done it alone. You brought in resources. Each and every one of us have to humble ourselves. We have a community, we have resources, we have things out there that can teach us to be better, and we don't have to do it all. You can rely on somebody and just let them go and let them do their part. I think our world is a beautiful place, but heaven and hell is right here. Your thoughts are powerful things. Good or bad thoughts shape your life. During the time of my TED Talk, my book also came out, A Deeper Wellness.
And I want to talk about that with the time we have left.
Thoughts, right, came from I got to go deeper, because on a day-to-day basis, we don't see our conscious thoughts as a problem sometimes. We rationalize a lot of bad behaviors. Going deeper is looking at the unconscious things, like you were saying, core beliefs, cognitive, distortions, distorted ways of seeing reality that I reinforce, and maladaptive behaviors that I reinforce that keep me stuck in making excuses and staying stuck with shame, blame, and guilt. Many of us have one person to forgive, ourselves, and
all right,
what we think we hold on to.
So with the time we have left, because I've sort of monopolized my time with you because it's just been so fascinating to get some of your. I almost feel like I sort of use the time from my own personal therapy session, but hopefully the things that we talked about resonate with some of the folks that are watching this. You called the book A Deeper Wellness, and I know we can see it in the background. Tell me about, how did you come up with the title? What's it supposed to mean?
You know what? I am very blessed to be able to be a part of so many people's lives. And I started my career working in corrections, and then worked in some of the top hospitals with extreme symptoms of mood, anxiety, chronic pain, disability. When you work with such extremes, I also get to witness people transform their lives. But the transformation doesn't come from a surface level change. The transformation, in my opinion, comes from a deeper awareness, a deeper understanding of what's the purpose of my symptom? What is the purpose of my behavior? That means you're questioning yourself on a deeper level. It's one thing to do a behavior, automatic pilot, a reflex, but then what's the purpose of this reflex? What is the purpose of the symptom? Why is my anxiety showing up? Why do I hesitate from talking to people? Why do I hesitate in allowing myself to shine? I had a girl yesterday who just got proposed to. My patient came back from vacation, and her husband or her fiance proposed with this beautiful rock on her finger. And she was showing it to me, and it's exactly what she wanted. And I said, look at the work you've done. You got the job you wanted. You just bought the house you wanted. You went on this 3-week vacation and just got proposed to. And she's like, I know everybody at work sees my ring and they're like, wow, that's big. And I feel like I have to dull it down. I said, why? Learn to own your success. Learn to sparkle. There's a beautiful poem out there. The fear is of us allowing ourselves to feel as powerful as we deserve. But as we allow ourselves to shine and be our best version of ourselves, we give permission to others to do the same. And so I said to her, the next time somebody says, wow, big ring, say thank you, gratitude, and say, I'm grateful. Right? Learn to own your success, not feel like you have to dull it down. I bought that at Walmart. I didn't pay that much. I got it on sale. We don't have to dull down our successes and our happiness. Sometimes we have to show people, if I did it, you can do it too. That's how I got into my career. I wasn't born in a field of doctors. I remember being nervous in my master's level to keep going to school so that I acquire more debt and get stuck with this education debt. And I had a colleague that is still my colleague today. And I met her and she was ahead of the process and she was finishing her PhD at the same school. And I went to her and I said, listen, I'm an average person. I've worked 2 to 3 jobs to pay my way through school. And I'm right now confused about, can I take on this next level of debt? And she looked at me, she goes, change that word right there. Education is an investment in yourself so that you can get to a place that you have more freedom. She goes, why are you doing your PhD? So you can sign off on your own reports instead of a supervisor doing it. And then she said something more interesting. She said, I'm an average person too. And if I can do it, you can do it too. That's all I needed. I signed up and here I am. At some point, it's our own fears and our own self-doubt that we have to work through and conquer. Like you said, I got to get out of the way. When I get out of the way, the book got published. When I got out of the way, the TED Talk got done. When I got out of the way, the practices and the businesses flourished. Get out of the way, remove and disconnect from cognitive distortions, distorted ways of seeing reality. You are worthy and deserving of more. You are worthy and deserving of health. You are worthy and deserving of reinvention. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not discounting for our audience out there. People go through horrific things, and I've witnessed a lot of people's journeys to tell you, we can't change the circumstances of what happens to us in our lives, but we can change our response to it. And a deeper wellness is about you taking charge of what you have control over, even if some circumstances, childhood trauma, abuse, addictions in your gene pool, whatever feels out of your control is one thing. But a deeper wellness is about taking charge of the energy that you are able to take charge with. When you have the intention to reinvent yourself versus keep going backwards and compare who you were, could have, should have, would have. We don't live in today. We are living either in the past, in who we think we were and envying a time that is gone, or we're looking ahead and we're doing catastrophizing thoughts. Your future is imagination. If you can imagine it better, you'll materialize it. Many of us get stuck in today and that hustle, and we don't give ourselves the time to play in our imagination. Show me how good it can get. Imagine bigger, imagine better, imagine health, imagine the healthier body, the person you want in your life. Imagine you just reinventing life and being different. Change is hard for all of us. We're creatures of habit. But sometimes our traumas teach us to reinvent ourselves and be different. And that's not bad. That's just another experience. Life is not about good and bad, just a series of experiences.
Okay. One of the things I know that you had sent me is, it says, how does a person know if they need therapy? So how does a person know if they need therapy?
Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, all problems manifest in your life in 3 distinct ways: through physical symptoms, through negative thoughts, and maladaptive behaviors. I might even have it on a chart. Here you go.
I love that.
Problem.
Oh, I lost her. Oh, we lost you, Monica. Oh, hold on a second. Oh, you gotta love technology.
We're back on.
We're back on. Oh my goodness, you gotta love technology.
Sometimes any problem in life, anxiety, depression, marital problems, sexual dysfunctioning, cancer, diabetes, caregiver needs to our children, adults, ADD, alcoholism, drug use, any problem you put on this table is going to show up in your life in 3 ways: through physical symptoms, headaches, muscle aches, abdominal distress, constipation, diarrhea, heart palpitations, crying, sensitivity, panic attacks, fatigue, anything in your body. Second way is cognitive, negative thoughts of you, your world, your capabilities, what relationships look like, heartache, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not failure, I'll never amount to anything, I can't do it. And then maladaptive behaviors, unhealthy habits that sometimes reinforce these. Eating too much, eating too little, sleeping too much, sleeping too little, alcohol and drugs. None of these guys, we do it here. Avoidance, denial, procrastination, porn addictions, gambling, staying in abusive relationships, not setting boundaries, not getting the help we want. So the three of these keep your problems standing. When people ask me when it's time to go to therapy, everybody has symptoms because everybody has problems. We're human beings. But when your symptoms get loud, where they're hindering your life, that's when it's time to get therapy. So I always tell people, if I had a magic wand and I can take away your problems, where would you like life to go? The goal in therapy is to take you from where you are to where you want to go. This gap are your symptoms. So the life is about reducing symptoms so where you are and where you want to go align. And that comes from alleviating the physical symptoms in your body, the negative thoughts that are holding you back from getting to goals and taking actionable steps to get there, and cleaning up the maladaptive behaviors that are holding you back from working successfully, socializing well, having an intimate partner or having a better relationship with them, learning to have a better relationship with your kids, money, with self-care, with boundaries, as well as spirituality. To me, spirituality is not religion. Spirituality is me connecting with my spirit. Me being able to like my own company is my version of spirituality. If I like my own company, I'm my own cheerleader. I don't need somebody to pat myself on the back. I'm doing it for myself. Good spirituality is you having a good relationship with your spirit, you having a good relationship with yourself. And so I always tell people, therapy is to help you bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to go. We all have areas in our life with life tasks that we can improve to be better in. Better relationships, better work, better balance, better self-care, or just better mindset. When they say an empty mind is a devil's playground, that's not true. If you're working on yourself, an empty mind is a peaceful one. We have to learn to work on tools and learn ways to work through whatever bubbles up that is unfinished business. I call emotional debris. Many of us are working through emotional debris of breakups, losses, not feeling good enough, childhood abuse, feeling like we weren't supported. Our parents did the best they could with what they had. At some point, it's about giving yourself permission to just move forward. I saw an Oprah episode recently that was fascinating. She was talking about her mother, and it was an interesting one because I know her life story a little bit from a masterclass she did. But she, in this interview, said the best thing my mom did, she didn't abort me. And I was like, right? But it was a fascinating way to say it. She was grateful that she was born so that she could be who she is today. Sometimes we have to forgive all the other stuff our parents did the best they could with what they had, and some of it might have not been to support us, help us grow and be better. But how did you do that for yourself once you were born? How are you reinventing life? How are you letting go of the story of mom, dad, and where you came from and all the heartaches and things that went wrong, and remove the judgment to just be like, that was experience. Here and now, who do I want to be? Here and now, how do I reinvent? Here and now, what's going to bring me joy? What's going to bring me peace? What do I need to change? A deeper wellness is about facilitating change by taking accountability. Your life can be better when you choose more gratitude, you choose more joy, and you choose to change. But change sometimes needs support. It's okay to go to a therapist. It's okay to go to your family doctor. It's okay to go to rehab. It's okay to go to a lawyer to educate you, or a financial planner. Reach out to all these remarkable people who can contribute to your knowledge set and make you a better version of yourself. You're here to live your journey. Add yourself in the equation of your life. And a deeper wellness is a workbook so that you can work through it. And I remember when I was publishing it, somebody said, well, what population is it for? And I'm like, I wrote this book with 30 years of knowledge to tell you that the book is for any age bracket from 15 onwards. That takes any problem. You can go through the book over and over with a different problem and work through taking accountability to see your part in where you're stuck. It's not about blame, shame, and victimhood. If we look at life, a lot of us have negative thoughts of victimhood, and that keeps us stuck. You go to therapy to clear the victimhood and take charge of the energy in your space and inside you. And that's where change happens.
Let's do this because we've reached the time limit. And I think I could easily do another 2 hours with you, much to the chagrin of the people that are watching. But for folks that want to find out more about you, perhaps they want to read the book, or they even want to book a session with you, or go find the TED Talk, what's the best way for them to get information about you?
drmonicavermani.com. My website has everything there, my corporate wellness programs, my TED Talk, the book's on Amazon in different languages. It's an audiobook as well. I had a person read that out for me too, as well as you can look up my clinic through just drmonicavermani.com. I also own Start Living Psychology Clinic, which is a clinic with multiple therapists that specialize in certain areas, autism, ADD, looking at couples therapy, looking at behavioral modification and addiction support. So feel free to look me up and you'll definitely be able to reach me. And TED Talk's out there on TED Talk under Dr. Monica Vermani.
And it's really worth the 20 minutes. It's fabulous. And so for folks that have watched, thank you for tuning in. If you want more information about what we do, mentalhealthaddictionlawfirm.com. That's mentalhealthaddictionlawfirm.com is our main website. And I don't know if I'm around as, on the internet as much as Dr. Monica, but if you just Google my name, you'll find a bunch of stuff about me. And I appreciate everybody tuning in. Monica, don't go anywhere. But for those that tuned in and took the hour with us, thank you. We're grateful. And we will see you in our next LinkedIn Live. And be on the lookout because we're relaunching our old podcast. So that's going to be exciting. So for everybody that tuned in, thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. And have a great day. And remember, don't give from an empty well, give from your overflow. Take care of you. And then you can take care of everything else around you better.
I love it. I love it. All right. I think we're clear.
Yay.
Let's hold on.